Hello and welcome back to Can Films Save My Life. This is the second episode, the second guest, and it is a very important and special guest indeed. It is another one of my oldest YouTube friends, the always awesome, prolific, self-confessed cinephile and creator of the 24-hour movie marathon, Ryan Chattaway of and Ryan Chattaway fame. How's it going, man?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. It's been quite a while since we've actually hung out like this face to face, even if it's on a computer.
Yeah, this is probably the first time we've spoken in real time in years, which is crazy.
Yeah,
We should really
probably
make...
that marathon live stream we did a while back,
Yeah,
like
fucking...
year 5 or something.
Yeah, Jesus, that's right. We should make more of an effort
Yeah.
just to hang out. Anyway, so you're here now, and we're going to do an episode of this, which I'm looking forward to. And it's your birthday, so happy birthday. Just so happens
Thank
to
you.
fall on a very special day, so very cool. Now, yeah, currently you're still like in the midst of like trying to get back onto YouTube. You've kind of been off and on and stuff. I think you just posted a video recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm kind of like, I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant, like except I'm like making my way back to the camp now. And I think like my last recent video was me eating the cow liver, and so like I'm getting back.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
Well, we can all look forward to when the bear gets you. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, while it is good to see you and good to talk to you again in real time, as we said, unfortunately the circumstances are a little bit different here, and you're probably not aware of that, but this isn't actually real. Yeah, you're actually in a coma right now, so that's probably why. It's
That's
been
about
a
right.
while. It's been a while since we've talked, and so this isn't actually as real as you might think it is. But I'm still here in some form. I've been sent into your mind to talk to you about films, because the doctors seem to think that you have such a passion for films that if you talk about films inside your head in this weird little construction, you might actually come back, and films might be able to save your life. I think what happened was
Sounds very David Lynch like.
a little bit, yeah, very, very, very strange. Sorry, I was literally just looking at the trees swaying in the wind. I thought that was very appropriate and David Lynchy. Okay, so from what I
I'm imagining
understand,
trees.
from what side note, I heard an interview with David Lynch once, and he was I think he was talking to Russell Brand of all people, and he was saying, Russell, seriously, I was walking home one night, and I just looked up, and there was a tree swaying in the breeze. It was thrilling. And I'm just imagining David Lynch just stood there, just like looking up at this tree for like half an hour, just being
Well,
captivated by the wind.
since I'm in a coma, that means I could actually dream and do this. Well, it's September 20th, and it's kind of rainy outside today. And here's my balls, and this is number 2. I've been like addicted to those David Lynch videos on
Oh my
YouTube
god,
lately.
the David Lynch YouTube channel has been
Yeah.
incredible.
Smoke me out.
Beautiful blue skies, golden sunshine. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah, just the fact that it's like on a camera, probably like on a webcam, kind of like we had back in like 2010, just makes it even better.
Yeah, the numbers thing is just like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Number 6. Number 6. And then it's like 40 seconds of black.
like, I think the second day that he did that, it was the same number, and like he had this look of disappointment on his face. He was like,
7. And then everybody in the comments was like, I swear, if tomorrow's 7, I'm going to lose it.
yes,
But anyway, so you're in my head.
yeah,
I'm in a coma.
yes. Unfortunately, yeah. From what I understood, and I feel partially responsible for this, you were out in the wilderness somewhere in Florida filming something for one of my marathon videos, apparently, and a tree fell on you. So that was kind of the unfortunate circumstances that led to your current predicament. But we got
You
15.
shouldn't have had that bark.
so, so we have 15 questions here about the films of your life. So the first one is very simple, as you might expect. What was the first film you remember seeing? If you can.
I guess, I mean, like seeing like in the cinema or like just in general.
Yeah, well, both. If you have two, I
Well,
mean,
it's funny because like literally the earliest memory I have of watching any movie is Batman with Michael Keaton.
oh, oh, what a great way to start, man.
and it's because my mom was a big Michael Keaton person, and of course Batman, and so like she, I guess, I mean that's like the earliest memory is all Batman '89, and I had the VHS tape. So also one of my earliest memories is the Diet Coke commercial that was on the VHS tape with Alfred drinking Diet Coke, and he's like, the men, you know, he's like talking about Batman's gonna go pick up the Diet Coke, and he's like, Alfred's drinking it, and I was like, oh man,
I
this
feel
is
like I've
amazing.
seen that, yeah. In like a half forgotten memory, I think I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and he's talking to the grocer, and like on the phone, he's like, and just so you know, he's in a bit of a rush, and just shows the
Oh, yeah.
Batmobile like flying flames coming out.
And by the way, the gentleman is usually in quite a rush.
Just for the taste of it, Diet Coke.
So yeah, definitely Batman, which definitely sets the tone for my life. So.
Do you have any like particular first memories of going to the cinema when you were a kid?
I think the earliest memory I could think of, in fact, of going to the cinema is when they re-released Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in theaters. And I mean, it had to have been the early 90s, maybe like 92 or 93. And I just remember my mom bringing me and my brother, and the theater isn't even there anymore. It was connected to a mall. And I remember sitting in there watching it. And that's, I mean, I might have been like earlier than that, but that's the earliest I can remember is seeing Snow White.
It is pretty hard to pinpoint those early memories, I think, but you know, some people do have one that sticks out, or one that had more of an impression that they remembered it the most, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the one that I remember the most. Like, in terms of trying to think about the earliest, that's the one I remember. And I think I even was asking her, why were we seeing this when we had the tape at home? And
the theatrical experience.
Yeah, and like I was just like, popcorn. Let's go back to the mall. But it's like we have this tape at home.
What was your favorite film as a kid? Like, obviously we have our favorite films now, but when you're a kid, what was and it might fall back to that same answer that you just gave to the first question, but you know, what was your favorite film as a kid?
Well, obviously Batman. I mean, I was obsessed to where like my parents, and I've mentioned it I think in previous streams on my channel before that, my parents had this, I guess when we were kids, we started like writing on the walls. And so my parents were like, well, if they're going to do that, we might as well just let them do whatever they want. So they like bought us crayons and like they painted the walls white. Basically, our whole childhood, we could draw like all over the walls in the room.
Wow.
And next to my bed was, I had drawn like this huge cathedral that was supposed to be like the model of the cathedral in Batman. And I had like little Joker cars, and I had them painted like purple and green and stuff like that on it. And so I had that, and I had Beetlejuice stuff, but Batman I had all over. I remember next to like further down, I had this whole Axis chemicals that I had drawn on the wall. So Batman was basically, it was everything Batman pretty much. If I could think of something other than Batman that I loved maybe just as much, probably Flight of the Navigator.
Oh.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
And at that time period, Flight of the Navigator, that's when I started liking the Beach Boys, because the Beach Boys is in the movie, that one song.
Yeah.
And so that ended up being like my first CD my dad ever bought me too, for like my birthday or something. So those two movies for sure were the staple of my childhood.
Compliance.
Yep.
Love that film. We actually rewatched that. Well, Connie hadn't seen it before. I revisited it in Marathon 9, which is obviously yet to be released. That was the film I hadn't seen since childhood, and oh my god, it was so great watching it again. And you worry about revisiting those films right when it's been a long time and it meant so much to you as a kid. But oh god,
and it holds up. It's just as like cheesy and hits you right in the heartstrings. Like
I mean,
like,
there's bits of it where you can tell, okay, the acting isn't a bit, here or there, but there's genuinely brilliant moments in that. Like especially when he sees his brother for the first time when he comes in, and he's like a teenager, and it's really affecting.
And there's all when I rewatched it a few years ago. That was the last time I watched it. But when he first goes into the house, and the house it's his house, but it's has those other people in it. The guy that's in the house at the time, I was like, why does he seem so familiar? Well, he plays the mad scientist in Day of the Dead. Dr. Frankenstein, or whatever that guy. He's like, come on, Dr. Frankenstein. So I was like, wait, why does this guy look so familiar? And I was like, oh, I'm used to seeing him covered in blood. That's probably why.
I forget what he said. It's like a really weird reaction. He's just like, well, hello, son, or something like that. It's just
he like burst into his room and he's like, what's the problem, son?
Yeah, that's it. What's the problem?
And you just hear like little jazz music playing in the background. It's like, dang, his wife's downstairs making him food and he's just up here chilling. Kid breaks into the house and he's like, what's the problem, son?
Like a smoking jacket or something.
Yeah.
It's like just chilling out.
I'm like, that's how you do it in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, that's a big one for me as well as a kid. I love that film and watched it with my dad a lot, so that was kind of a special memory for me. But yeah, Batman, I think we're both pretty similar on that film. Very much a defining film of our youths, and another one that still holds up. But what film for you defined your teenage years? Because surely once you became a teenager, at some point your viewing habits must have started to change, as your tastes must have changed as well.
Yeah, I mean, my mom is like where I kind of got my love of movies from, and so like growing up, like I've always said, The Godfather has been like my favorite movie since like elementary school, which is true because The Godfather movies are my mom's favorite movies too. So like, obviously The Godfather, but if I'm trying to think of like when I got a little bit older, in terms of like teenage kind of stuff, I'm trying to think of like the actual, I guess really a movie that I just like had to watch anytime it was on TV, and it kind of led me into watching more of his films was Casino. I would watch Casino like on USA, and it was like the edited version, so like it wasn't Joe Pesci dropping F-bombs. It was just like, yeah, this freaking guy just he went to the freaking store and this is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps, like that kind of like that kind of editing. But like I remember falling in love with that movie, and I remember going to some hole-in-the-wall video store on my bike, and I started buying, like I bought like a VHS of Taxi Driver, and I bought like a VHS of Casino, and then I just started, when I'd hang out with my best friend, in fact, we were talking about this last night, we were hanging out, like we used to go to Target all the time, because he lived near a Target, and I would just buy I bought Good, Bad, and the Ugly on VHS tape and all these things, and it just kept going from there. So I mean, I guess Casino, because that was one that I kept watching anytime it was on TV, and it was different than the other stuff. I hadn't been really big into gangster movies other than The Godfather, and so that was just one I watched repeatedly.
Yeah. Well, I know how big the Godfather films are to you in your film viewing life. When did you like start watching those? When did your mum get you on those? Like, how old were you? Like,
so when my parents got they got divorced when I was 9 or 10, and I remember they kept in touch. And I guess for Christmas the next year, my dad bought my mom as a gift the Godfather 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary gold VHS. Cassettes, and I remember her putting those on, like having them in her apartment, and I was always like, God, what are these things? And she's like, oh, movies. And I just saw like the old covers, and Marlon Brando on the first one, and then Al Pacino on the second too. But I was like, they were 2 tapes, so it was like this massive thing, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And so she started watching them one day, and then I just started watching them with her, and she kept telling me to turn my eyes if it was like a bad part or something. Yeah. And then a few years later, I guess I was just old enough, like by that time I was like 11 or 12. Well, she was like, you could borrow those, and she ended up giving them to me, and the rest is history, really. Do
you still have those tapes?
No, when I started getting DVDs, I got rid of all my VHS tapes because some of those hole-in-the-wall DVD stores and stuff, if you traded in your VHS tapes, you could get DVDs. And I remember getting rid of them. But I did buy, I did rebuy that VHS set from Cinema Sickness here on YouTube. He had like the set, and it was still wrapped up, and it came in like the box that had all 3 films in it. And I actually rebought the set, so I have the set, it's just not the same exact one.
That's cool. Yeah. I remember speaking about the kind of the TV edits. Another Joe Pesci one that I remember when I was a kid was My Cousin Vinny, and and the one that always sticks out to me is when he's in court and he just goes, "Well, that's bull stuff." Even as a kid, I was like, "What's this? That's so
bull
bad."
Stuff. That's bull stuff.
What is your favorite film that you associate strongly with a family member or a friend? Not necessarily. Well, it could be your favorite film as well, but one that has such a strong link for you with someone else that maybe you watched it with, or have a memory with.
I mean, obviously, the thing is, like, I did remember. I mean, watching like The Godfather and stuff with my mom, but it didn't really hit me like it wasn't. It's not really something I vividly remember. But I would say maybe like in regards to. Can it be like recent kind of thing?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, well, one is definitely like You've Got Mail, and that's because me and my wife watch it all the time together. So that's a movie. Anytime those kind of things pop up on TV, even though we own it, like even if it's 4 hours with commercials, I got to put on You've Got Mail, or When Harry Met Sally, or some of those movies. But You've Got Mail is a big one. I had a complete brain fart. That's going to be awkward couple of seconds, but
no, that's good. You're working it out, and that's a really good answer. I think especially when it's someone who you're sharing your life with, and you have a film that you can kind of associate with them. And I have quite a few of those with Connie. Films that we share a mutual love of, and You've Got Mail is actually one of those as well. Actually, we love that film, and when we went to New York, we went to many of the locations, as I'm sure I probably told you at the time.
Decaf. Cappuccino.
I knew she would be. She had to be.
She had to be. She had to be.
What is the funniest film you've ever seen?
All right. I knew you were going to ask me this one, and I was like thinking hard about it because I could really give like kind of like 2 answers, but so I am gonna kind of give 2 answers. To me, the funniest movie that I put on all the time, and it'll always cheer me up, it makes me laugh, is The Odd Couple, the original Odd Couple with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. I love that movie from beginning to end. It just cracks me up. But I would say the first. Got a notification on my computer that randomly came up. The one that I actually have a memory of being like the funniest movie I've probably ever seen was when I went and saw The Nutty Professor for the first time in theaters with my dad. Yeah. Especially like when the dinner flatulence scene came up. He was like, my dad was like falling into the eye. Obviously, my memory probably shows it. Like, he was probably really just sitting there like, but in my memory, he's like rolling over the aisles and like on the floor. And I'm like, if you've seen my dad, that does not work out. Like, he is not one to be rolling around on the floor. He probably could roll, but not. So I just have like these memories of that. But in terms of the funniest movie I think I've ever seen that I constantly laugh at is maybe The Odd Couple.
I've never seen that.
Oh, it's so good. It's such a great, funny movie. And there's parts in it that I, quote daily and do daily. Like there's a scene where Jack Lemmon's just like, he has really bad allergies and they're like sitting in a restaurant and Walter Matthau's just like, chilling, and all of a sudden Jack Lemmon starts going, Oh, it clears my ears out. It clears my head. And Walter Matthau's looking at him like, are you serious? And everybody in the restaurant's looking. And so I do, whenever I have a head cold or something like that, I always try to annoy everybody around me by start going, just like in the movie, and
Okay.
turns into some pretty great situations.
I'm sure that's not annoying at all.
I'm sure it's incredibly, it's probably the most annoying thing, and my wife's over there shaking her head. So, And the last thing I'll say about it is there's a funny quote that Walter Matthau says to Jack Lemmon after he's just kind of snapped, and he's like, "You left me a note on my pillow. I thought I told you I hate little notes on my pillow. We're out of cornflakes. F you. Took me 3 hours to figure out F you meant Felix Unger." And so it's like little stuff, like just little quotes like that just kill me. It kind of reminds me of like a Wes Anderson film or something like that. You have to really almost kind of think about it or you'll miss it. But every time I hear that, I'm just like, oh my God. So great.
I think I bought that film in the great VHS summer of 2009 when I just trawled my local town for VHS tapes. I think I bought like 300 of them because they were going for like 10p a piece. It was ridiculous. And I literally just built this whole wall in my room. I didn't watch most of them, but that was one of them. And I remember seeing it and think, oh, that's a classic film I should see, but still haven't seen it. So maybe I should get to it. If you could only watch one genre for the rest of your life, what would it be? Now, obviously with this one, you could just throw in drama and get a lot of bang for your buck on that. But, I'm thinking maybe more specific genres, something a bit more, laser focused in on something that you can define quite clearly as a genre.
So clearly as a genre, I would say a fiction film. No, I'm just I don't. In terms of one genre for the rest of my life, I would probably say like maybe film noir. Maybe because for the past 4 months, I have plowed through basically any 30s or pre-code crime movie that I can. I've watched probably 100 in the last 7 or 8 months, and I feel like if I say film noir, I'm really I guess I should just say crime, because I love all those, and I love the film noir stuff, but then that includes later stuff like The Godfather and Once Upon a Time in America, and so I feel like that's a genre, just a crime film that could be, and I could just watch those forever, and I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, actually. What are some of your favorite crime films, in particular? Obviously, Godfather is up there, but
Yeah, I mean, in terms of I have some new favorite crime films that I've watched. I watched a ton of Edward G. Robinson movies, and I love.
Saying.
Yeah, I love. He was in a movie called Blackmail, and that was. He ends up going into a chain gang and stuff like that, and I loved that movie. Obviously, The Godfather, but movies like Double Indemnity that have to do with any kind of a crime.
Yeah.
I guess more contemporary type stuff. Zodiac, Seven. Really anything that David Fincher does in terms of crime. Really anything David Fincher does. But
have you seen Manhunter?
I saw the first 2 episodes, and I don't know if it was my brain. I tried to get into it twice, and I could not get into it, which is weird because everybody told me it's so great, and I was like, I mean, I really liked what I saw. I just cannot get into it for some reason right now. I've tried twice.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's really good. Connie had watched the first season, and then the second one was coming out, and she said, "Do you want to watch the first one?" I wasn't really that interested, I went along with it, and I've really got sucked in. It's just a really great show. I'm kind of disappointed that the third season has been kind of shelved for the time being while Fincher makes his next movie. Although, we'll get a new David Fincher movie. That's pretty good
Yeah.
too. But yeah, Heat's a big one for me. You a fan of Heat?
Oh, I love Heat.
Yeah, I mean I haven't seen that since I don't know, years and years.
I think, and I mean, I like anything that Michael Mann does, but like another crime movie that I love is Manhunter.
Oh,
The first Hannibal Lecter movie.
yeah.
And I avoided that movie for so long because I was like, oh, nothing's going to be
Me
Silence
too.
of the Lambs.
Me too. Yeah.
And then I ended up seeing it, and I was like, oh my gosh, the whole aesthetic of the movie is epic. Like the synth, the soundtrack, and just like it was just it. And I actually like it. I actually prefer it now to like Silence of the Lambs and stuff.
Oh, come on, that's
in terms of
that's a bit.
in terms of like rewatch.
Well, I can't remember who I said. I think it might have been. I don't know who it was. I heard someone, Graham from Man v Films, said he thinks that Brian Cox is a better Hannibal Lecter than Anthony Hopkins. Interesting take.
Yeah, I've never heard that. Well, actually, there's some purists that are like, "Oh, Brian Cox was just legendary.
He was the original."
Yeah, he was legendary. He's like, there hasn't been a performance like his since Heath Ledger as Joker. Like, I've actually never heard somebody say that. But that is, I will say, I don't know. See, now I'm like second guessing myself because now I'm like, wait, I really just said that about Silence of the Lambs? Because every time I watch that movie, I'm always like, holy shit.
Well, it gets to that thing where it's like, we don't really need to pick a better one.
Yeah.
They're both great. They're both very different films in a way.
Yeah.
Obviously different stories, but
I mean, yeah. That was the introduction of me realizing that men could use lotion as well.
Well, I have a strong memory of Manhunter. Actually, I already watched it a few years ago, but I really love the score and the soundtrack. And there's one bit on the score that's just comfortably numb. They've just changed a little bit, but it's comfortable. You listen to it and you can just hear David Gilmour singing. They've just ripped off comfortably numb. It's ridiculous. I think it's like Graham's theme or something like that. But I listened to that soundtrack for some reason while I was writing my book. My book isn't about crime, isn't about serial killers or anything. So I've listened to that soundtrack hundreds of times for some reason. I don't know. It's a great soundtrack and a great film.
Yeah, I listen to the soundtrack. Probably like at least one song from it, like once every couple weeks, and every time I do, I just think of William Peterson, like in the bedroom, going, "What are you gonna do? Are you gonna drag the body out? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I'm just like, in my car, just like, what the heck am I gonna do? Is the light red? What are my motives for driving to work?
And what's his name? Is it Tom Noonan?
Oh
Is
yeah,
that right? I mean, great. I mean, I know him from Last Action Hero, but it's for me, having seen Last Action Hero, it was great to then see Manhunter and see him give like a real, proper meaty performance as a kind of, quasi-villainous character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great film that more people need to see and talk about, I think.
So I would definitely say crime.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. So, the next question is, jumping from crime films, what is your favorite comfort movie? Like the film that you don't necessarily need to put on and watch it all the way through, but just to have it on kind of just brings you comfort, and a film that you kind of, well, again, just is a great comfort to you and helps you in times where you're feeling a bit down and you just need to put something on that you really like that distracts you for a moment.
Definitely not Schindler's List. I mean, that is not a comfort. Even though there is this weird thing with me where depressing movies, like, comfort me a little bit. It's really weird, like really dramatic, depressing as hell. Like it's a happy movie, and then at the end, an atomic bomb goes off and the whole house gets obliterated and everybody dies. I'm like, so like life. How inspiring. But all jokes aside, a movie that I put on all the time, if I've had a bad day, if I'm feeling like really anxious or I'm having a rough time, I could put in Rear Window. Rear Window is a movie I put in constantly.
I can see that.
And my wife just looked at me again because she's like, definitely that's true. I mean, I think the Blu-ray menu has been is like pretty common like in our house. I mean, the Blu-ray menu is some generic Alfred Hitchcock theme that Universal has on there that doesn't have anything to do with the movie. And so it's just like boom, 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 like a bass. And I'm like, please press play. Yeah, but Rear Window is one that I, in fact, I'm thought about maybe watching it sometime today. Who knows? Because it's my birthday, so I should watch something I want to watch.
Yeah, damn right.
Rear Window, and that's been like that for probably since elementary school as well. When I first rented it, because I rented it and I was sick like the next day, and so I was like in my room watching this movie with this about a guy sitting in his house with a broken leg spying out the window. So like I could relate.
It is a kind of comforting movie in a way. There's a scene in it, isn't it? It's raining. I haven't seen it in years. It's like raining or something, and he's been up all night or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know.
He's watching his neighbor leave the house with suitcases, but it's through rain.
Yeah.
And because of that, I actually love watching that movie when it's raining outside.
Yeah.
There's something just so comforting about the whole thing.
Yeah. It's just even though the subject is not very comforting when you're thinking about a potential murderer living across the street, but
no, yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of people could relate to that kind of that. I mean, this gets off on another thing, but I think there's a voyeuristic side in each and every person. I know there was when I was when I was growing up, my backyard faced a road that had this old building's no longer there, but it was like this old school building for like adults would go there and get classes for like court and jury type stuff. But I remember as a kid, like if I was sick or if I was bored, I'd just kind of stare out the window and I'd be like, what's that person doing? What's that person doing? And there were times where I actually like grab some after I saw Rear Window, of course, I like grabbed binoculars and I was like, what are they doing in there? What exactly are they? And I was like, maybe I'll see a murder. Like it's a great thing. But I was like, maybe I could solve a crime. And and so I just think it's comforting seeing what other people are doing in life.
That's a great
Looking
answer.
out the window and spying on people is so comforting.
Well, I think it's true what you say, but I think people tend to look at the word voyeur and voyeuristic as inherently sexual things when it's not entirely that. It can be, but there is just that side that, well, for me personally, I'm like a people watcher.
Yeah,
I'll often just sit and say, I wonder what their story is, you know. So yeah, I think that's kind of a very basic human thing.
You can make a movie or make a story about every single ooh, that person just got on the city bus. Like, I wonder what their day's been like, and it could be like this whole huge thing. I don't know. I've just always been into. I guess it's not. I guess you could say it's being observant around.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I'm like that too.
I'm like, ooh, what are they? Ooh, let me follow them to their house. You know, like there's nothing creepy about it. It's just, I mean,
or maybe there is.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I get it.
It doesn't happen all that much, and when that happened, after she slapped me and told me to leave,
I know.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, it doesn't have that much. The courts have decided that it's
Yeah.
What film have you watched more than any other?
What film have I watched more than any other? Batman. It has to be Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only movie that I've ever had to get twice because of the VHS tape messing up.
Right.
It got to the point where my parents actually bought one of those VHS tape rewinders because they were worried that I was going to rewind the heck out of the VCR and destroy it because I was watching it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I also had it twice on DVD because I watched it so much it scratched. Now that I've gotten a little bit older, I've tried to, because literally I'm at the point now with Batman where I know every single line where I almost cannot enjoy it.
Interesting.
And that happened last time I watched it a couple weeks ago. I loved it. But I was like, man, I have watched this movie to where it's not at all fresh. I'm talking about like I got the mannerisms down, and it works whenever I'm doing my Michael Keaton impressions and stuff. Like, you know, just little stuff like because I bought it in Japan, like little stuff like that. Like I just know every breath in that movie, and so now I told myself I'm gonna wait at least another year before I watch it again because I don't want it to. I don't want it to ruin it where I can never watch it again.
Yeah, completely. I do that with a lot of my favorite films. I try not to overwatch them. Even if I'm feeling like, oh, I'd like to watch that tonight. I'm like, well, you know, it hasn't been that long. You know, let's just give it a year to breathe. I don't know. I suppose this question really good. The answer goes back to like how much you rewatched the film as a kid, because that's when you wouldn't really care about that stuff and you just rinse the film over and over again. And I can remember watching films and then just rewinding and just watching it again, you know, which I would never do now. But in an ideal world, maybe sometimes I feel like that, like, oh, I'd love to just watch that again, but there's more movies to watch. So
yeah, like
our priorities shift as we get older.
Of course, like when we watch movies, sometimes like the second that it's over, like for the first time, you're like, holy shit, that was amazing. I want to watch that again right now. But I mean, obviously, you don't really act on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's how I felt like after I saw like The Lighthouse, or even like a movie like Shutter Island or Inception. The first time I saw it, I was like, I need to watch it right when it ends because I want to watch it again, and I didn't end up doing it.
Usually, when that feeling hits, it's like, you know, for a few minutes you consider it, and then adult life kind of just peaks up and goes, oh no, you have work tomorrow, or oh no, you got this chore to do. It's like, okay.
Oh no, you can't spend $15 to get another ticket to the same movie you just watched.
Well, I did that for The Last Jedi, actually. That's the only time I've done that. I've just like walked right back in.
I think there's exceptions.
Exceptions, yeah, but not something you can indulge in all the time. What is the most emotional film you've ever seen? What film has hit you in the chest the hardest?
Man, that's a hard one. I would say, I'm not gonna lie. I would say the movie that probably has hit me the hardest was Growing Up, and really like it kind of goes back. I mean, even today, if I watched it, it's that damn ending scene of Mrs. Doubtfire, where Mrs. Doubtfire is narrating, talking about divorce, especially like growing up with my parents getting divorced and stuff. Like just hearing Robin Williams like as Miss Doubtfire and anything Robin Williams does, like I find so comforting. Even, you know, some of his stuff, like he just was able to really get inside you, whether it's in like anything that he did, except where he played serial killers. But but every time that scene comes up, even though as an adult I've gotten over all that kind of stuff and feeling that about, you know, how my parents getting divorced when I was a kid, that stuff still comes up anytime I watch that movie. And like when that last scene's on and talking about, you know, you know, it's not their fault, it's just they've fallen out of love with each other.
Just because they don't love each other doesn't mean they don't love you.
Yeah, and like every time that stuff comes up, you know, it's like that. And, you know, also like the end of Home Alone for me, man, the old man, when he reunites with his son, it's like, and Kevin's like, or I don't know how we, but mainly Mrs. Doubtfire. That's one. Obviously, I've seen movie. Yeah, it's like Macaulay or Mac, wave.
Would you just love to see like a great movie like recut with all the worst takes?
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Gosh, life is like a box of Kleenex. You never know how many you're gonna get. No, we're not gonna use that. We're gonna go back to the chocolates. Get busy living or get busy shitting. You're damn right. No, go back to the other one, Tim Robbins. Go back to the other one.
But
that's a bad take.
That ending to Mrs. Doubtfire, I'm with you on that. For me, my parents split up before I was still a baby, so I didn't go through it maybe as much as you did. So it was actually more when I was like a teenager that it hit me that much. As a kid, I just loved it because it was a funny film, you know.
Yeah.
But the older I get, even now, it hits you. That's a great film. I think it's underrated. I mean, it's a great comedy, but it's a really good drama too, and it has a really nice message to it, I think.
Yeah, there's movies like that too that have. So, I mean, people say, "Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire, that's one of the funniest movies ever." I'm like, man, but it has such a damn good like heart to it, and like when it hits you, it hits you.
The part of that that sticks with me the most in terms of just a line from the film is when Sally Fields is like, the whole time. I'll just work that into daily life sometimes. Where I'm just like, the whole time, like that's the yeah.
I mean, and then you like think about it, like how kind of slightly problematic and abusive the whole situation is. like it's just it's hilarious. Yeah. From his son walking in, it's just pissing like, oh my god, it's Dad. No,
oh my god, I forgot about that scene actually. Gosh, it's been another one. It's been so long since I've seen it, man. The makeup in that film was really. Have you seen like the tests that they've done?
Yeah.
Some on YouTube, and it's a little bit off, and you're like, Jesus, But the actual final product is really something.
It ended up being like pretty damn perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someone else could have done it, but you feel like saying no one else could have pulled that off with Robin Williams. Like,
yeah,
it's just such a unique performance. Anyway, brilliant film. Who's your favorite film director? I'm sure for you, this is like, if you had kids, it would be like picking your favorite kid. Like, I'm sure it's going to be very difficult for you because I know that you love a lot of different directors. But if you had to pick one, who would it be?
I'd have to go with Uwe Boll.
All right, next question.
I would have to say Hitchcock, hands down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's just mainly because of growing up watching the movies.
Yeah.
And that goes from, I love some of his so-called bad movies, and I love some of his so-called great movies. So.
Well, I think with Hitchcock, he has such a long filmography. Like, I think some people don't even realize how long he was making films for. I haven't seen much of his early stuff. Sabotage is. Have you seen like all of his films? I know Robbie has seen like everything.
Yeah.
Sabotage is like, I love that one. That's a great early,
Yeah, I actually watched that a few weeks ago because TCM had they have this thing to where they do like a day dedicated to the movie stars, and one day they had Sylvia Sidney Day, and so they showed that movie, and I was like, please show Beetlejuice and Mars Attacks next, please. They didn't end up doing that, so I rented them. Actually, I rented Mars Attacks because I don't have that on Blu-ray for some reason. But yeah, definitely Hitchcock, and just the fact that he started. I mean, just the fact that his filmography goes all the way up into the mid-'70s, and it starts like in the silent era. That's insane.
I know, yeah. And again, I haven't seen a lot of his later stuff, but I mean, it's undeniable that in the middle there, he just was making some of the best films ever.
Yeah.
So there's just so many. So that's it. That's a good pick, I think, actually. But Sabotage, like that bus scene, like holy shit, fucking tension on that. And that was the first thing when I saw her in that Sylvia Sidney in that film. I was just like, it's the woman from Beetlejuice. What the hell? That was kind of like the first connection that I drew in my mind was that. Have you revisited Beetlejuice recently? Just to go off on a tangent, because we watched it last week, and I think like I've never loved it as much. Like it more than held up.
That's how I feel about it.
Oh.
I think last time I watched it was like last October, and it is one of those movies I loved as a kid.
Yeah, same.
Watched it repeatedly as a kid, but then when I got older, I remember being struck by like how little Michael Keaton's even in it, like how little Beetlejuice is in it.
Oh yeah.
But then I just loved it. Was a great movie. It was just a really good movie. Sets, and I think to myself, I'm kind of glad and hope they actually never do a Beetlejuice 2.
No, I know, yeah.
They've always like kind of, there's always that fake stuff on like the internet and stuff like that about movies that are gonna get made, and I'm like, gosh, I love Tim Burton, but I don't think Beetlejuice should be like a CGI fest.
Agreed. I'm sure Michael Keaton could do it, and with the nature of the way the character looks, I think it would be surprisingly similar. I think they could achieve that, and I think he'd kill it. But I think you just don't need to do it. It's perfect, you know. Like the story's been told. I don't know. It'd be fun to see him, but I feel like if they did a sequel, he'd be in it a lot more as well, and that would kind of almost ruin it. I don't know. I want to show you the new Blu-ray I got of it, because I'm sure you'll appreciate this. It's the handbook for the recently deceased.
Yes.
It's so good. And this is the 4K version. And seeing just like extra detail and stuff made me appreciate all the practical effects so much more. Like that dude in the waiting room who's just like this black kind of just like cigarette trying to cut back myself.
Oh, that just reminded me like just that little funny moment in the movie where Alec Baldwin goes, "Handbook for the recently diseased," and then the music goes dun dun, and then he's like, "Handbook for the recently deceased," or deceased, and then it goes dun, dun. So it's like a cue, but yeah, that's such a great package for that.
And the score is just amazing. Anyway,
yeah, just the fact that Danny Elfman is so like brilliant, and the fact that what had he, other than like, because I know he was in that band, but I think before that, didn't he only do Pee-wee's Great Adventure? Wasn't that
I'm not
like
sure, to be honest. I don't know too much about Danny Elfman.
I think Pee-wee's Great Adventure was like her first score. Then like Beetlejuice is either like his second one or third one. But it's crazy to think of his early movies, like how great those scores were, and it's like, gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. Did he do Edward Scissorhands?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another amazing score. Holy shit! What a trilogy of scores in the late 80s, early 90s for Tim Burton. He did,
and just his Batman March, like, is just
insane. I was actually listening to what was it? I can't remember. I was listening to something on Spotify and work, and it had finished, and it randomly played something else, and it was the Batman theme. I was like, how that it wasn't even related to the previous thing, but I just listened to it, and I was just like, just listen to it on its own is awesome.
Yeah,
but I was imagining the opening logo of the movie and stuff.
That's what I always put on my vinyl, like, of the score that I have of that, and like I like just imagine like the whole movie as it's going on, like all the music cues. I'm like, oh, yep, here's Knox. Here's Knox.
Think about your future.
Yeah. And sometimes it's unfortunate that I think about the podcast that Kevin Smith did with that. It was the Fat Man on Batman, and they were rewatching Batman. Oh, it was great, but it ended up being them just like talking crap about it. So like I keep every time I watch the movie, I'm like, I think about that. Like sometimes I think about some of the stuff they say, and I'm like, well, they were kind of right, but I don't care.
Yeah, I don't. His co-host Mark Bernardin is a bit of an interesting one.
I just don't like hate watching. Like
it was weird. I listened to some of those, and I ended up just turning it off because it wasn't. I was like, this isn't conducive to my fandom of the film. So
the first thing that caught my attention, and I still think about, is the opening scene with Batman on the roof. The guys are like, "Hey, all right, American Express card. Don't leave home without it." And like Batman just demolishes them, but then just flies off the roof, and it's like, I'm Batman, and then like he didn't do anything to save those people, like, at all. He didn't even get their wallet back. Nothing. He just appeared, beat the shit out of them, and was like, and like Kevin Smith, and then we're like, he didn't even do anything Batman related. He let them get robbed just so he could say, I'm Batman. And then he flies off the roof. Like, what a dick. Hell? And so, like, it's funny. Like, I love it either way, but it's just funny. Like, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit when I start the movie, and I'm like, Batman's kind of an ass right now. He's not doing shit to help this family. They're screaming and stuff. There's a kid involved, and I'm just like, damn. It's almost like he was just kind of waiting on that just so he could just beat the shit out of those guys and be like, I'm Batman. Which is legendary in itself. I just think so I see stuff like that, and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't like hate watching stuff, so I don't like. And they were really angry about it. And I remember Kevin Smith one time was like, "God, I can't believe I thought this movie was so amazing when it first came out, man. It's great." And I'm like, dude, come on, man, it is amazing. who cares that Batman didn't save those people?
I know,
Who
yeah.
Yeah.
You get bogged down in the minutiae of that, I think. And his co-host Mark Bernard, and I do like some of the stuff he says, but on that podcast sometimes they'll review a new movie. And I think it especially happened with Star Wars, the recent Star Wars films. And Kevin Smith's just like, oh my god, it made me feel like a kid again. It was just so amazing. And Mark Bernardin's like, yeah, but there was this and that. And Kevin's like, oh yeah, maybe this movie does so. It's just like he keeps talking him down off the ledge of enjoyment, which just seems like such a weird thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
We've answered this question with Alfred Hitchcock and talked mainly about Beetlejuice and Batman. So just to bring it around very briefly, what would you say are like?
It's the coma. It's the coma.
It's the coma. Yeah, we'll blame on that. And by the way, you had a notification on your computer. Don't worry about that. This isn't real. You don't need to check the notifications. Just so you're aware about that. So
This is not reality.
this is not reality. So very briefly, like, what are your like? What's your Mount Rushmore of Hitchcock films? Since it's your favorite director, pick 4. Obviously, Rear Window is probably going to be in there, right? I'm assuming.
I mean, at one time I would have had, and this is crazy. Like one time I would have had Vertigo on it, and Vertigo was my first Hitchcock movie.
Okay.
And I love Vertigo, but the older I've gotten, the more I've realized it's not as enjoyable or great as some of his other movies. So I've actually kind of taken a step back from it.
Yeah.
I still love it, but like in terms of enjoyment, I have to put Rear Window up there. I have to put Rope. I love Rope.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I have to put Psycho up there. In terms of like his Universal masterpieces, like in those collections, I would say that those are my favorite. But I love the original Man Who Knew Too Much with Peter Lorre in it.
Okay.
So good. And then Lady Vanishes. And I like his older stuff too. Like I love Topaz. That's probably my favorite late Hitchcock, and it's considered like maybe his worst movie by people, and I love it.
I might watch a Hitchcock movie today. I'm really feeling like I should see more of his films and revisit some of them as well. Vertigo is one that I was disappointed in, only because it was great, but I think it's on like the Sight and Sound like list. It's like, you know, aggregate of all these critics like saying what they think is the best film of all time.
And
Vertigo,
it like beat Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think those things are fun, and I enjoy lists, but I also think they can be a little bit, not damaging, but they can kind of hamper your enjoyment sometimes when it's like, this is the greatest film ever made, and you have this expectation, and it's great, but it's like, well, it didn't blow me away, you know?
Yeah.
So I need to see that one again to, you know, not have that in my head when I'm watching it, I think.
Now that blew me away, like as a kid for the first time. Like the only reason why I rented it, I'd never even really heard of Hitchcock before when I was like in like 3rd grade, and this is when I started like with Rear Window and stuff. The VHS cover, which I had the VHS, not the same one, but it's just had like that Vertigo like artwork that Saul Bass did, and I was like, what the heck is this? Oh, it has James Stewart. That's the guy from I think at that time the only thing I had equated with him was Five Will Goes West. And so I watched Vertigo, and as an elementary school kid who had never really experienced a Hitchcock movie and having an ending like that, I was just like, I need to watch more. And I went and got Rear Window right after that, and that just that brought me a whole new appreciation, and I just kept going from there.
What is the best experience you've had at the cinema?
Oh, that's a good one. Usually for me, best experiences are in the cinema is like almost like unexpected. Like obviously I could say seeing Phantom Menace for the first time, and like that build up to a new Star Wars movie, or even like a Force Awakens. But in terms of, but I feel like you get that with movies that are that big. I like it when movies like kind of surprise me, and probably one of the funnest times I ever had, there's probably 2 of them, is when I saw The Departed in the theaters. We saw it opening weekend, not knowing anything that was going on. And when certain scenes in that movie happen, when a certain scene happens, you hear all the girls in the crowd scream, and all the guys go, "Oh shit!" And that was a lot of fun. But then the other one was Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. I saw that like in high school, or even maybe even in middle school. I forgot when it came out, but that was one of those movies where everybody was just yelling at the screen, like, "Oh, they're right behind the door! Watch out! They're gonna get!" And like everybody was like that, and it was hilarious. And I had never experienced that before. And I would say those are probably like my two favorite because it was fun. Obviously, nothing's gonna be Force Awakens like in some ways, shape, and form now. Just because of the build up was so huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like a four-way tie between Star Wars and crime and Scorsese violent scenes. So
yeah, it's interesting because it's in a cinema for me. Like if people are being noisy, I get really tweaked. I'm just like, just shut up and watch the film. I get really, it
makes me angry.
Yeah, but when it's like they're noisy and loud because they're so into the movie, it kind of gives it a free pass, because you feel that collective enjoyment, and there's just something really exciting about it, which I don't experience very often, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't think I've really experienced that kind of, other than like a Star Wars movie, like
when it's like fans and
it's like a collective, and it's like, and that's kind of magical because like seeing Force Awakens, everybody was quiet. It's like collectively when the Lucasfilm logo came up, it was like
yeah.
And then but meanwhile, like with Dawn of the Dead, it's like that bitch is behind the door. But even though everybody's yelling and stuff like that, like everybody's collectively experiencing the same thing. So like that person that I was with that yelled that, I was like, yeah, watch out, behind the door, come on. I think one guy turned around and was like, I'm trying to enjoy the film. And I'm like,
at least you didn't go full De Niro in Cape Fear, at least. I mean, that's always the fear that you get someone.
Yeah. Well, I actually it would have worked out. I mean, I had a little birthday get together last night, and I did have a cigar, so I could have gone full De Niro, like from Cape Fear. Hey, counselor.
Now, this is a big one. What is the greatest film you've ever seen, objectively? Not your favorite, although that might kind of align. Best film you've ever seen. Go.
I actually was thinking about this the other day. I forgot what I was watching. It may have been watching like an older video of yours, or maybe you even. I don't know. I guess I thought, because I know that your answer is Seven Samurai, correct? Like that's just like the greatest film you've ever seen. And I was trying to think of the same thing.
Dude, don't you say Jack and Jill. Just please.
No, that's not even the greatest. That's heavenly.
I know it's up there for you, but just please, for my sake and everyone else. We'll put that to one side in its own special category. But
I would say, for me, it's like a dead tie between The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Once Upon a Time in America.
Haven't seen Once Upon a Time in America, but with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I can totally see where you're coming from on that one.
Yeah. And that just comes from, and that's just how I feel about Sergio Leone movies in general. I don't know, I just think it's like, I don't know, I feel like there's times where people, like filmmakers, it's like they're at the top of their form, and everybody involved is doing the best work they can, and that's how I feel about that. And some people say stuff like, well, The Godfather is perfect, but Francis Ford Coppola really did it with Apocalypse Now. And I'm like, yeah, but I think sometimes directors are better when they have some kind of a, I don't know. I think you could have so much excess, like with the money and all that kind of stuff, that just because a movie was hellish to make doesn't necessarily mean it's like the greatest film because it was so hard to make. But my opinion is kind of just from, I don't know, to me, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly and Once Upon a Time in America. But if I had to settle on one, I'd probably just have to say Good, Bad, and the Ugly, because of Once Upon a Time in America had so many different cuts and stuff because it was butchered by the studio. I would say like Sergio Leone's like original cut is the one I'm referring to, but I mean, hell, the version of The Good, Bad, and Ugly I grew up with was the cut version as well. I think that's everybody grew up with that version. It was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and that's kind of the version I grew up with, and I would consider perfect as well.
Yeah,
that's maybe the greatest thing. So that's what I would say.
I think this is something so inherently cinematic about that film. Like, it's just cinematic. I think the last like 20 minutes are just unbelievable. Like the editing in that standoff and the music, it's just such a perfect marriage of so many great elements. It's,
and then Lee Van Cleef like missing part of his finger, like little details, like when he's reaching for his gun, you're like, ooh, that guy's missing a finger or half of his finger. It's like, oh man, they really casted the right guy. And then the little,
and just those three guys, like three really different characters, three amazing actors. Like, it's just such a brilliant film. I haven't seen that in years.
Idiots. It's for you.
Hey, Blondie! You know what you are? All right, well, tell me a little about Once Upon a Time in America, because I haven't seen that. I don't really know much about it. What about that film to you makes it one of the best?
Mainly because of like the scope, but then
it's like an epic story.
Yeah, but like the way it's done in terms of a narrative, like it's bookended by like the movie's not in chronological order, so it's kind of like how Pulp Fiction is. So you go back and forth, and where you think the movie may end when De Niro is old, but it doesn't end there. It goes back. So like it's bookended by this one specific point. But really, when it just comes down to the perfect music by Ennio Morricone, and the set design is probably like one of the greatest things about it. It's just the whole first half of the movie when they're all young and they're like in this Jewish neighborhood in New York. It looks so authentic, like incredibly. It's like the same thing that Leone does with like authenticity with like Good, Bad, and the Ugly and some of his other movies. Like he brought that, and the only other time I had seen something that authentic looking was maybe like The Godfather Part 2, which is tied with The Godfather is like my favorite movie. And but I would say that Once Upon a Time in America does that old New York better, more authentic, and it's like not like you could tell that Godfather Part 2, the cinematography is great with that, and like it's like a painting you could put on the wall, each frame. But Once Upon a Time in America with those scenes, it doesn't always feel like that, but you feel like you could put that on your wall as well. But I think it's more real, it's more gritty, and I don't know, I feel like you could feel the atmosphere of the city. Like you could almost smell the delicatessens like on the street, and you can smell candles burning, and like I don't know, that's just how I feel with that.
So for someone like me who hasn't seen it, what version would you recommend seeing? Because I don't know. I know they released like an extended cut a few years ago.
They have the actual version that premiered at Cannes that was on DVD for like 15 years. That's the cut that like I fell in love with. I would actually say that's a good starting point. Like that's the version you could watch the 250 something minute version. It's like an extra 50 minutes, 45 minutes, but it just adds some more stuff to the story. It does answer some little things, but it's mainly the footage is so bad that it's kind of jarring. Like it's very jarring, and so I think it's more of a fun thing to watch after you've seen it once, and you could watch that version because it's like, oh, it's almost like I'm seeing something. Now I'm finding out more. But the version that I would watch would be the cut from that they actually premiered at Cannes Film Festival, which had like the 30-minute like standing ovation and all that stuff. That's the version I would watch.
Yeah, I think of like director's cuts like that, they're kind of like the completist cuts. It's like, maybe not necessarily the most enjoyable experience in terms of the jarring footage. Another thing I think of is the extended cut of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yeah.
And if you've seen that on the Criterion, where, it's not quite enjoyable because there's like scenes where it's just a still image, you hear the audio. But it's like a nice completist thing there if you really want to,
That's actually the version that I watched as my Criterion of that, like now.
Oh,
Even
yeah?
though some of those scenes annoy me with just the card, like there's like whole 5 minutes where it's just like
Production stills and...
just stills, and it's cool
Yeah.
because you're hearing the audio, but I don't know, it makes a pretty fun, crazy movie, maybe just a little bit crazier and funnier.
That's true. With that
some
movie,
of
it
the stuff
definitely
is
fits. Yeah. What's the best on-screen chemistry you've seen in a film? Now, this can be a romantic pairing, or it can be more of a kind of buddy thing, just kind of a duo. But kind of the most believable kind of on-screen, or maybe memorable on-screen chemistry you've seen.
Best on-screen chemistry. I think hands down it'd be William Powell and Myrna Loy in the Thin Man movies. Have you seen those? You haven't?
Nope.
You just need to like go on YouTube and just look at, like, you would think that they were married like in real life. And
Okay, so this is a real answer. It's not a joke.
No, I'm not kidding.
Okay, that's good. Okay, because if it was, I wouldn't have got the joke.
Oh no.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that feel the same way too. Just like their banter is just so perfect. You definitely need to check out at least the first one.
How many are there?
6 or 7, but the first one is a bona fide like masterpiece, and it's based on the I forget who did the book. Dashiell Hammett, is that who it was? Oh, okay, yeah, Dashiell Hammett. Like, so it has the same kind of feel as some of his other stuff, like Maltese Falcon and everything. But they did like 15 or 18 movies together because they were such good friends, and everybody loved their chemistry. So
Okay, we'll set up for me very, very quickly. What was their kind of the relationship there in that film or films?
In the film, he was the detective and she was his wife. But the thing is, they loved each other without a doubt so much. So like it was the kind of a playful banter to where they'd be at like a bar and a woman would hit on him, and she would look at him and go, "Oh, she's not really your type." That kind of just like little stuff like that. And she walks in on him being hugged by another woman, and instead of like saying "How dare you," she just looks at him and like does a goofy face, and then he does a goofy face back to her, and like stuff. It's just realistic. Like it's so it's so good. They're
all right. Awesome. That's like an answer that's completely foreign to me, and I love that, and so I'll definitely check that out.
I think Adam Sandler's performance with himself and Jack and Jill, the chemistry was top notch between her and Al Pacino. I mean, it's just greatest romance in cinema history.
I was going to say with himself, because I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that Adam Sandler really has the best chemistry with himself. That would kind of fit, I think. Did you see Uncut Gems yet?
No, I wanted to though.
Okay.
I don't think I feel like having a panic attack for like 2 straight hours from what everybody says. But when I hear people say that, I'm like, but I've seen some pretty crazy. Maybe it's just cool to say, well, it's like a 2-hour panic attack.
It's not that bad. I think people overblew it, and I don't think it's that great either. But it is really good. Like I've
seen the ending. I've seen the last scene.
Oh, come on! That's such a. To be fair, that's the thing I didn't like about it. It just felt like such a build up, and then just none of it really mattered. It works though within the context of the film once you think about it. But why did you see that? How did that happen?
I think I was just curious.
You just curious?
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I do that to myself.
My mum does that. She reads the ends of books before she reads them because she wants to know what happens at the end.
Really?
And I don't understand it, but
I always
to each their own.
It's like when Harry Met Sally, when he's reading the book, then he just goes to the end and that's when Harry Met Sally, right? I think he's reading, because they had that whole talk about. He goes, when I read, I like reading the end, just in case I die, I know how it ends. Like something like that.
Yeah.
That's not I don't do that just in case I die. I just do that just for the hell of it.
I know. If you could only watch one film before you died, on your own, like a solitary experience, you've been given this one chance. Like, okay, here we go. Any film you want. What would it be?
Probably Ikuru.
Well,
Like,
there you go.
That's a good movie to watch before you die. Either that or Phantom Carriage. Just gives life meaning.
Well, they're both great films.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I knew I was gonna die, I mean, I don't know what I would. Probably something maybe something I never made time to watch before.
Yeah, maybe.
I could do that one last letterbox like rating before.
But then it might be shit. So then...
Yeah, leave a review. Be like, this is a shitty way to end my life. Well, thanks guys. See you later.
Yeah, it might not work out.
Would I watch again? I can't. You know.
I'm pretty sure that like the translation of Akira is to live, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be kind of an ironic one to pick.
Yeah.
It's okay. So you would probably actually lean into something that is like life affirming and, you know.
Yeah, but now I'm also thinking something like, who knows? I might end up watching something like Jaws. I don't know. That's a hard question.
It is a hard question. But we need a definitive answer.
Okay. If I had to watch one more movie before I croaked.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. My Life? No, I'm not going to do that.
That's a great film.
Yeah, I know, but it would probably make me want to go ahead and end things a little bit earlier than it would have been. Like, oh God, I'm so down already. Even though tomorrow I'm like, let's just end it. I don't know, I could fall back on The Odd Couple. Like, realistically, I would probably watch a movie
enjoyable
like that. You're right. I probably wouldn't watch something that's so deep and like,
right.
It's like, why am I gonna? I spent my whole life trying to get the answers, and I think am I gonna get it from a movie that's 2 hours before I die? Like, might as well watch something fun.
Okay. I'll go with The Odd Couple then.
Yeah.
So, the final question is, what would be your perfect movie watching experience if you were able to choose the film, the time, the place, with any people who would accompany you if you would want at any point in their lives, just complete creative control. You could go to like a different country, you could go to a different time period, you could have anyone you want with you to watch a film. What would it be?
That is a really hard question. I know. I think it'd be cool to have, like, obviously, like, people like you and like Robbie and just like good friends. Like, we magically are able to get together and we could just watch something that we all collectively love. I don't know, something like, I think it'd be awesome for everybody to get together and let's watch Star Trek and watch like The Empire Strikes Back or something. I don't know. So that would be awesome to get everybody together and did a whole Star Wars marathon.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And I could invite some friends that, like, my best friend, which is crazy. He's literally never seen 1 minute of any Star Wars movie. Okay. And
so you'd like to introduce him to, like, on a big screen experience.
This is a Star War right here. That's Obi-Wan. Oh, is that Spock?
I have actually started watching Star Trek, believe it or not. So
really, what have you? What, the original series, Next Generation?
I've watched 2 episodes of the Next Generation.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm quite enjoying it. I think I might continue, but I think it might take me a very long time. But I'm cool with that. The thing that's put me off is just there's so much of it, so I like almost never get around to starting.
The first season is good, but I will say that collectively it gets better when William Riker has a beard. Because it's so
Riker
funny.
beard scale.
Yeah. And it's a great series. It's not really that long of a series too either. It seems, I don't know, maybe the scope of it. But it's only like 6 or 7 seasons.
No, I know, but when I mean, like, for me, I get so completist about these things. I would want to watch the original series. I would want to watch Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise, and it's just like, holy shit, there's so much of it. But it's on Netflix, and I just thought, you know what? So I've started it. I've slowly started.
Netflix has the restored cuts too. Like
yes, yes, they do,
which is
awesome. Is very good. Yeah.
I've been slowly making my way through that set, my Blu-ray set, for the last like 3 years or 2 years since I got it. I watch some every once in a while.
Yeah. Anyway, so you would pick a kind of Star Wars marathon with friends, people who love it, but also maybe a friend who hasn't seen it before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And, you know, if I have any friends that hate Star Wars, I would love just to have them there so I could be like, oh, gosh, you still owe me $10. This is why I brought you here. Asshole. I'm just joking.
Well, that's...
I don't know, that would be some kind of marathon of some sort.
Yeah. That's classic Ryan, by the way, for anyone watching, is to make a very obvious joke and say, I'm just joking.
Yeah. That's my calling card.
Should
like, remember what I said about that one time? Like, if somebody was go up to somebody, I'm dying. Just kidding.
Yeah, I could see you doing that.
I didn't think that one through.
Yep.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Well, you've ground this to a halt with your very bad jokes, Ryan. But the good news is the good news is you have answered these questions honestly and memorably, and so I think I'm just hearing in my little earpiece now. The doctors are saying that there is some activity spiking in your brain, and you are going to come back and wake up. At which point we should probably do an actual Zoom conversation just to catch up and so on. But this has been fun. Thank you for doing this. Actually, I forgot. I was going to mention earlier when you were talking about The Departed. Great film. The last time I watched it was in your living room. So I need to see that again, I think, because that's been a very long time.
I think you were literally sitting right behind where...
Oh, is that where you're filming from now? Okay,
yeah.
No, filming, in a coma.
So basically it's almost like I'm sitting on your lap or something. That's kind of how, that's the...
Sure, we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Hey,
that was an interesting one. I watched The Departed, and then we spent like the early hours watching like really old silent films, and I want to go watch that video now. That was good times.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I did. I let one of my coworkers. He's Spanish. I let him listen to that song that guy was playing on the guitar.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, after all these years, I've wondered what this guy's talking about, because I've always wondered, was it?
Oh my god, why didn't you tell me this? What is it?
He was listening to it, and he was like, oh, he's crying out for a girl that he was in love with, and and she left, and he just wants her back. And I was like, oh, that's so poetic. And I was like, so it's not anything like offensive or anything that I could. And he was like, no, it's just a really beautiful love song. I was like, oh, cool.
Ojos azules, no llores ni te enamores. Ojos azules, no llores ni te enamores. Llorarás cuando me vaya, cuando remedio no haya. Llorarás cuando me vaya, cuando remedio no haya.
I'd forgotten about that as well. Oh my god.
Jose Lothario.
Now we're into the in-jokes. Anyway, Thank you for doing this, man. Is there anything coming up on your YouTube that you have planned that you want to tell people about, or are you still just finding your feet and kind of getting back to it?
Just still finding my feet. Obviously, I'm going to be planning. I really want to do my marathon for this year in the next month or so. I just can't narrow down when I'm going to do it. So I do want to do that.
For anyone who's missed it, Ryan did just recently post his Year 8 24-hour movie marathon video, so go check that out if you haven't seen it yet.
It was many, many months in the making, but actually only took 5 minutes.
Well, shit, yeah, it took me a year and a half to get my Carpenter marathon done, and I'm still 2 marathons behind, so, you know.
I'm looking forward to watching that finally.
It is what it...
Every time I sit down to watch it, I fall asleep before I even turn the TV on. So
Just as soon as I start talking, it's like, oh my god.
dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. But
How long's left? 6.5 hours? Jesus.
isn't it funny though that you get comments and people are like, I sat through the whole. Like, I still can't imagine if I upload like a 6-hour video and getting a comment. I sat through the whole thing.
Dude, I did the live premiere for the Carpenter one, and there was, I mean, I'm sure they weren't sitting there watching it attentively for 6 hours, but there were people who are regularly commenting throughout the entire thing. Like, Sean actually tuned in for like 3 or 4 hours as well. So,
Oh, that's huge.
yeah. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I still can't quite believe that myself either, but it is what it is. Anyway, so I'll see you again, I'm sure, at some point, and we'll chat more movies. I'm sure we should do more of this, I think.
Yeah.
It's been too long, and we can just do random streams about lots of different topics and go into lots of different directions, as can be seen from this discussion.
Well,
But,
thanks for saving my life.
I know. Yeah, well, you did it. You answered
Yeah.
the questions. It was, it's all on you. So, thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for the next one. It's bye from me. It's bye from Ryan. And, yeah, goodbye.